Hey everybody, welcome to World of Warcraft, featured here on G4G. I am your host, Dave Pondon. So, today's topic is patch 9.1, Chains of Domination, saving World of Warcraft, Shadowlands, currently as we know it? And a lot of people are probably looking for yes or no answers. They are believers in the World of Warcraft cause, so they're hoping for a yes. Or they are World of Warcraft detractors at this point, maybe even jumping ship over at Final Fantasy XIV, and they want to hear a no. Well, I'm sorry to say, for you Sith Lords who deal in absolutes, a yes or no is probably a bit of a tough answer at this point. I would say 9.1, Chains of Domination, is, quote, trying, unquote. That's kind of how I feel about the patch so far. So, little bit of background. For those unfamiliar with my World of Warcraft history, I have played since the vanilla beta. The guild that I run on Bloodhoof has a charter date of January of 2005. We had a prior charter that started in December, but unfortunately somebody double signed, and that was a bug in vanilla, that if you sign a charter and then sign another one, you blow up the charters when people go to turn it in. So we had to do it all over again. My original World of Warcraft players came over from the Unreal Tournament, UT99, and 2K4 series. So we were FPS people before we got into WoW. And being FPS people at the time, in those early to mid-2000s, FPS people and MMORPG people didn't mix. Let me just tell you, the FPS people thought we were manly men, and MMORPGs were not for the manly men. That has changed quite drastically, and World of Warcraft converted a lot of my fellow FPSers over into RPG people. So, I speak from an extensive history with World of Warcraft. I also speak from an extensive history of running my own guild since the very early days, and we're still going. And we're still raiding, having only really dropped a raid tier in Warlords of Draenor because it was Warlords of Draenor, probably considered the worst World of Warcraft expansion up until Biffa. So, a common theme for World of Warcraft is the hope that the way it goes with World of Warcraft is they don't follow the Microsoft model of good OS, bad OS, good OS, bad OS. A great deal of World of Warcraft fans have said that if there are two bad expansions in a row when it comes to World of Warcraft, the game is going to be in serious jeopardy, and there's going to be a lot of people who probably aren't going to stick with it because they cannot handle two bad expansions in a row. One of those people includes myself partially, and most definitely even my own girlfriend, who would sooner abandon WoW than go through the struggle of another bad expansion. And she is into Final Fantasy XIV. I have played all of about a few hours of it. I don't know that I could ever be converted to Final Fantasy XIV. And it is the big thing lately. Let's be honest, in all of WoW's history, WoW has had to deal with posers. Games that said, we are going to be the WoW killer, we are going to be the next WoW killer, and there were games like Aeon, and Conan, and Wildstar, and SWTOR, and Rift. Now, out of all those, I did play Wildstar for a while, quite a bit, until Wildstar was hacked. And my account was one of the ones that did get hacked. And when the GMs reset me, it was not a complete and clean reset like anything I'd ever seen in WoW. So that is when I abandoned Wildstar. I did play Swoter until a really bad support ticket experience with Swoter at the time, and that's actually even on my channel way back. I did play Rift, and I really liked Rift. At the time that I was playing Rift, World of Warcraft's trees had already begun to not be quite this, but they were on the way to turning into that. And Rift had a lot of talent trees that I thought was really great. Speaking of Rift, that is what World of Warcraft 9.1 actually tries to be on a lot of levels. When you go out to the new content, Korthia, that I like to call Australia, so I'm going to be calling Korthia Australia for the rest of the video, because it's been shown to be a landmass very, very similar in shape to it, and due to its size, I like to call it that. So when the new Australia dropped, the way that it goes on that island is it's very much like Rift, with a very social, hey, while you're out and about, kill this thing that just spawned kind of a deal. That's how Korthia works, and that's what's going on with the new content. We, of course, have a new raid, which terminates in Sylvanas, and I believe there is already a Mythic First Sylvanas kill, and if you look around the net, there is even an article that one guild, Echo, poor guys that they were, had a specific strategy for Sylvanas that Blizzard actually patched in the middle of their runs, in the middle of the Mythic race. There was 5 or 6 guilds competing for it, and one of the guilds that devised a specific way of approaching it had their whole shtick changed right out from under them. So imagine you are driving to work and you have a route planned out. The GPS sees you driving to work and decides to somehow Dark City Matrix-esque change the roads on you. Yeah. So that's what happened there. The new content. Is it really going to save World of Warcraft right now? Like I said, I think it's trying to. It's putting forth a good effort, but I don't necessarily know that it is enough to have the power to say yes. When we've talked about all of these, I didn't know they were different colors. Wow, I never noticed that. That's cool about flying. I never noticed that the pits over there had different colors like that. That's kind of neat. So as you can see here, I'm now flying. You could not fly in the base Shadowlands game. As people have pointed out, including myself, what real good is flying when you are doing new content that you can't fly? You cannot fly in Australia. So what good is it to fly in old Shadowlands content? Well, I'll tell you, it actually means quite a bit, because it allows you to be a sniper with your quests and everything. So this week, the world boss is Mortanis, who is located here in the House of the Chosen. It is a real, absolute dick of a bastard bitch to get to his location if you do not have stealth, or if you are not Maldraxxi, because you have to go through a really bad elite area to get there. And that is actually the trend for most of the world bosses in World of Warcraft Shadowlands. That kind of happens for almost all of them. The Venthyr one is one of the easiest. It's still a little touchy. It's one of the easiest. Valinor and Bastion's a bit of a bastard. The Mortanis for the Maldraxxi is really, really bad. And the Night Fae one in Ardenweald is probably one of the easiest. Again, stealth helps, but it's not the worst one in the world like today's. The fact that you can fly and that you can earn flying relatively easily in 9.1 if you kept up with the story in base Shadowlands is, as a matter of fact, really, really super handy, because you could fly over all of this crap here and literally land right where Mortanis is. And you can do that with all of the world bosses. Valinor out in Bastion is another really bad one for it. And the ability to just skip right to the boss is extremely handy. So yes, having... Wow, I picked up a Runecarver memory. Interesting. Considering how long I've been playing this game, and the only thing I've done is old content tonight. Oh, that's the new one. Actually, Memory of the Unbridled Storm is a new Runecarver power. So yeah, the ability to jump directly to a world boss is very, very handy. Here I am doing a guy who drops something that I use for my covenant. I'm able to drop in on his head, kill him, and get out. So even if you subscribe to the philosophy that, you know, what good is flying in old content, it still means quite a decent amount. I don't particularly do dailies in old world anymore, mostly because doing Australia dailies gives you all of the anima that you need right then and there. So you get a quest from your Sanctum Upgrades person every single week to collect 1,000 mana. And you have the week to do it. And when you collect the 1,000 mana, you can go ahead and turn it in. Well, the collection process is what fulfills the quest. So as long as you collect 1,000 anima, you complete the quest for the week. It used to be a little hard to do it right on the first day. You'd have to do the world boss, maybe an elite quest, and then a raid, or something like that. Now, with Australia dailies, it's like 10 minutes. You can do it so super quick. And if you go out and do a world boss, or an elite sector, it's even that much easier. The fact that I landed at Mortanis, put myself in the queue as a tank, got a group within 15 seconds and was done with the whole process within about 3 minutes. Boom, that was 500 mana. There was an elite quest over here in the back of the House of Chosen today, another 500 anima. And I do mean anima, not mana if I say mana. Boom, 1,000 right then and there. So now one of my weeklies is done, and it's a major weekly. Being able to fly in the Maw, or being able to fly in Australia, would be extremely handy, but we all know Blizzard doesn't work that way. When we were doing Legion, which was actually considered a good expansion, over here in the Broken Isles, you were able to fly in the old content, but when Argus dropped, you were never able to fly in Argus. That's because that was the new content at the time. They want you to have shortcuts, but they don't want you to have it tremendously so. So there are going to be areas where you just can't fly. I will say that 9.1 probably introduced the fastest flying to people that had already been keeping up with existing content. When you go back to and look at Legion, and you go back and look at BFA, what it take to actually go from flying as one endpoint to the first day flying was available as the other endpoint was considerably larger in those expansions. So at least flying is quicker in this. Flying is considered divisive in the community. Some people say it ruins the game. Blizzard sometimes says, well, we want you to appreciate the aesthetics of zones and everything first. I get that Blizzard wants you to do that, and there are tips and tricks and nuances to doing everything on the ground and seeing every nook and cranny and cave and hidden cave behind a bush that you don't get when you're in the air. But if people feel that an expansion is growing long in the tooth, or content is growing long in the tooth, you gotta get flying out there, because it puts people back to a relaxed state, where they are in control of the content you produce better, and it gives people player agency. So if I would, here's a prime example. This Wild Hunt quest over here, Veilwing Sentry Mounted. This one is really, really far from the nearest flight path. You might think this is close. It really isn't. This is a long ground trek from here up north and curving down, or down south and curving up. It's really, really bad. Knowing that I can fly right to it, and if that trinket actually meant something to me, or the rep that I would get, that Wild Hunt rep meant something to me, I have player agency. I can get to that quest faster, meaning I enjoy World of Warcraft more. I've seen the ground of Shadowlands enough since last Thanksgiving, basically. We're talking 7-8 months of basic Shadowlands content. They needed to do something. People considered the previous raid tier very long in the tooth. It was a very long time to sit in the base Shadowlands raid tier, Castle Nathria, and not have any new content. So 9.1 adds the Mega Dungeon, which is Tabazash. And if we go to pre-made groups and we look under dungeons, the first week it was out, you didn't see a lot of it. Mostly because it's not Mythic Plus, it is a flat Mythic. Nowadays, it's getting better. You are seeing more Tazavesh or Veiled Market groups. I personally think, as far as a Mega Dungeon goes, Tazavesh isn't too bad. When I compare it to Karazhan the Dungeon and the Mech Dungeon, I find it better. I don't think it is particularly too bad when compared with Mechagon. Mechagon as a sprawling mythic was an absolute slog. When you had the outside area and the inside area, and you did the both combined as a mega mythic, it was bad. That outside area was really, really bad, especially when you were trying to avoid the boss, that the other boss was over. A lot of trekking back and forth, a lot of sections with just trashy pulls that you try to avoid. Tazavesh, you go in there and you make it about 3/4 of the way through before you get super tired of it. It moves fast, the bosses are very accessible, and the market portion of it, it does begin to get a little bit unwieldy towards the end. You can make it up to Mises Oasis and So's Me and feel like, wow, okay, this dungeon's moving along pretty quick. This isn't really that bad. Mises Oasis is a bit of a running around to get into this boss, where you're trying to take the goods and find the correct person who wants them. So you get up to So's Me, and it's pretty quick, and then things fall apart for the dungeon a little bit. The Murloc section before Legion Heilebrand, this boss, Time Captain Hooktail from a Biffa aesthetic, is rough, and Soli is rough. Time Captain Hooktail is an absolute piece of shit from a tanking perspective. You use the dragon's own abilities, her tail whip and her breath, to kill the adds, but trying to get even sometimes your own guildmates to bring the adds to the cone or to the tail whipping ass so that they die can be really rough, because they want to live. They don't want the adds beating on them. They need to dodge the cannon fire too. So overall, I would say Veiled Market is a pretty decent mega dungeon. The original Karazhan, before you could overpower it, was very slow. Mechagon, was very slow until it started splitting up into heroics, where you had the outside section and you had the inside section. So as far as mega dungeons go, I think they have a hit with Veiled Market. Not as big of a hit to make me go, wow, like I really want to do it. It's a chore to think about it during a week, but for now the upgrades are good enough that I want to go in there and do the chore. Once I have all the gear out of that place, I'm probably never going back. But it's, I think, the least offensive big mega mythic that WoW has introduced. As for the raid, we are currently 5 out of 10. I can't really say if the raid is going to be part of the saving grace of the expansion. Any raid other than Castle Nathria is obviously going to be something, because we were there for a very, very long time. Nice. Blizzard should have learned that lesson from Mists of Pandaria already. Apparently they didn't. And to lead off an expansion with a Mists of Pandaria mistake is a big mistake, in my book. You could say COVID, and I understand that. However, dealing with the itis... I wonder if she does something. Anyway, dealing with the itis, I think, was a valid excuse through the beta and everything, and pushing live back. I believe once they pushed live back and it finally came out, that's it. The excuses are over, right? You can no longer blame the itis for not having a good expansion. We're still dealing with it, and in some areas they're dealing with it worse than other areas, but you've adjusted now. You're used to the work from home. You're used to the telecommuting or the partial telecommuting. It really is just no longer a real excuse for quality on anything, in my opinion. So that's what I'm thinking about it. For a hot minute, I was considering Final Fantasy XIV. The girlfriend's really into it. She knows I'm a big Final Fantasy buff and player of the regular games outside of 14 and 11, and I think 12 is trash. But the aesthetics of that game never appealed to me. I didn't like how it looked. I didn't like the fonts. I didn't like the way the world looked. Like, it tried to be realistic, but can't, because it's a big MMO video game. She got me set up with Reshade, which helped fix it quite a bit, but the only thing that can get me out of WoW now is WoW itself. Not really so much the game, it's the people that I deal with in the guild. It's the pressure of maintaining a raiding guild for 16 years now, 16, 17 years. And getting, it's like managing a sports team. You get a rhythm, you get your all-stars, and then one goes down to an ankle injury, and one wants more money and goes to a different team, and one gets married, and one gets a kid, and one gets a divorce. One is a cop who gets put through a glass window responding to a loud noise party call and injures himself. I mean, I've seen so many things in this guild and make your head spin, but it's how the game changes the people and how the people change the guild that is the only thing that could get me out of WoW. If people start hating the game and disliking the game so much that they can't play, and you have to recruit again and again and again and again, and oh, there goes their all-star healer, or the other tank is going to be out for 2 weeks going to Vegas because he just doesn't care, then yeah, that's when things get a little rough. But I'm still giving it a try. Girlfriend's still giving it a try. Guild is still giving it a try. 9.1 is a bit better than the base Shadowlands so far. I just don't know if it'll have the power to carry it another 7 or 8 months. Hopefully we get 5 or 6 months out of this patch. And we move on to the final tier of Shadowlands. And maybe even a World of Warcraft too. Who knows? Like, maybe we come back from being in Dead World to find Live World is quote-unquote dead. And it's like, okay, on to World of Warcraft 2 now. And a better engine. It looks prettier. Who knows? Anyway, that's my opinion. If you are playing WoW, and you are playing 9.1, Chains of Domination, tell me what you think about it so far. And let me know if you've considered getting out of WoW during this expansion, and if the patch has maybe saved you a little bit. Peace out, everybody, and thanks for watching the video.